The world will test your peace. Every single day, people will poke, provoke, and pull you into their chaos. But remember this, a warrior of discipline doesn't react, they observe. Don't give them your energy. Rise. Choose silence over rage, stillness over struggle. In this stormy world, your calm is your power. And when you master your inner world, no one and nothing can control you. They will talk, they will provoke. They will test the limits of your patience, hoping to drag you down into their emotional storm. But understand this, when someone tries to trigger you, they're not attacking you, they're exposing themselves, their chaos, their pain, their insecurity. And if you react, you become a mirror to their weakness. But when you observe without absorbing, you remain untouchable. You see, most people live in reactivity. Their mind is constantly pulled by noise, opinion, judgment, and manipulation. They're trained to flinch, to argue, to defend, to lash out. This is the normal state of a person ruled by ego, but you are not that. You are capable of something deeper, something stronger. You can choose to see without needing to respond. You can witness the chaos and remain calm. That's not passivity, that's real control. Imagine a lake, still, silent, untouched. When the wind blows or the rain falls, ripples appear, but the depth remains calm. That's your mind when you don't allow outside forces to disturb your center. But most people are not like the deep lake. They are puddles, easily shaken, easily disturbed, easily evaporated by the heat of conflict. Don't be a puddle. Become the depth. The ones who try to trigger you are revealing their own lack of control. They want a reaction to feel superior, to feel they've gotten under your skin. They feed on your loss of peace. When you don't give them that, you strip them of power. You reverse the dynamic, their weapon becomes useless. This is not just strength, it is self-mastery. But how do you do it? You pause, you breathe, you watch. The moment you feel the pull to defend yourself, to shout, to explain, catch it. That is the exact moment you are at the edge of power. Step back. Witness it like you would watch clouds pass across the sky. Just because someone sends you poison doesn't mean you have to drink it. This is what separates the disciplined from the distracted. A disciplined mind watches with calm detachment. It sees the storm coming, but doesn't panic, because it knows the storm will pass and peace will remain. The distracted mind gets pulled into every emotional tug of war. It thinks the moment matters more than the principle. But every time you react, you trade long-term peace for short-term satisfaction. And that cost is too high. People will misunderstand you. They will challenge your silence. They will say your calm means you're weak, passive, or fake. Let them. Your worth is not in proving yourself. Your strength is not in arguing your truth. It is in living it. And when you live it long enough, the noise fades, the attacks grow tired, and your presence alone becomes your answer. The great mistake is believing that peace is weakness. It is not. It takes tremendous inner power to stay centered while the world tries to pull you off balance. It is far easier to react. Anyone can raise their voice, anyone can slam a door, post a comment, throw a punch, but not everyone can stay still, breathe deep, and walk away with their power intact. Don't let people drag you into emotional traps. Every time someone tries to trigger you, ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Is this worth my peace? Most often, the answer is no, because your energy is sacred. Don't give it to anyone who hasn't earned it. Stay grounded, stay observant, and most importantly, stay unavailable to drama. When you stop letting people pull you into their storms, you start inviting them into your calm, And even if they don't join you, they'll learn they can't touch you. Not because you fought back, but because you refuse to be moved. This is how you rise, not by standing on someone else, but by standing above what they tried to make you. Before you react, breathe. Before you speak, pause. In the space between action and reaction, between emotion and expression, lies the secret to true power. Your breath is not just oxygen. It is the anchor to your awareness, the gateway to your control. Every master of self knows this. The breath governs the mind, and the mind governs your life. In a world that constantly pushes you to move faster, speak quicker, and respond instantly, the one who slows down becomes invincible. The breath is your shield. It is your weapon. It is your way out of chaos. When emotions surge, anger, fear, frustration, confusion, your breath begins to change. It shortens, it tightens, it escapes you. This is the body's natural signal of being pulled into a reactive state. But if you can notice that shift and bring your breath back to rhythm, you reclaim the reins. You do not let the emotion ride you, you ride the emotion. The majority of people live at the mercy of unconscious reactions. A harsh word, they respond without thinking. A disagreement, they defend without listening. An insult, they explode. But what if, just for a moment, you allowed silence to lead? What if you inhaled deeply and refused to let emotion dominate your next move? That's not weakness. That's discipline. And discipline isn't something you show in public. It's something you prove in private, in the milliseconds between stimulus and response. The breath is the most underestimated superpower. It's always with you. It costs nothing, but it builds empires inside you. You don't need an audience. You don't need validation. You need only awareness. Because when you can control your breathing, you can control your nervous system. And when your nervous system is calm, your mind is clear. From clarity comes choice, and from choice comes power. Think of the breath as the gatekeeper. When someone tries to provoke you, they're essentially knocking at the gates of your inner peace. If you react instantly, you swing those gates open and allow their chaos to enter. But if you take one full breath, you give yourself space to see, to understand, to choose. That space is where wisdom lives. That space is where your higher self resides. And you can only access it through conscious breath. Training this is not easy, but it's simple. Start by noticing how you breathe when you're calm, long, full, deep. Then observe how you breathe when you're angry or anxious, shallow, tight, rushed. That contrast is your signal. The moment you feel your breath change, don't speak, don't move. Just return to the breath. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. 3 times. You'll feel it shift in energy, a break in the storm, a return of control. Breathing doesn't remove the problem. It doesn't make the pain disappear. But it prepares you to face it with clarity. It sharpens your awareness and gives your mind room to rise above impulse. And that space, that microsecond of awareness, is everything. That is where a warrior lives, not in the sword, but in the stillness before the strike. Not in noise, but in the silence before the word. Not in rage, but in the breath before the decision. This world will give you countless chances to lose control. People will test you, situations will stress you, and your own mind will betray you with doubt, fear, and anger. But each time you choose breath over reaction, you win a silent victory. You reinforce the walls of your inner temple. You strengthen the roots of your discipline, and you become someone no chaos can shake. Power is not always loud. Sometimes it's as quiet as an inhale. Sometimes it's as still as a pause. But that pause, that breath, is what separates the undisciplined from the master. Anyone can act out. Anyone can react. But very few can master the breath in the middle of fire. Very few can sit in the storm and breathe like it's a still morning. Let others lose their minds. Let others spiral in anger, drown in reaction, and chase the satisfaction of short-term emotions. You breathe. You remain. You remember nothing outside of you deserves the power to disturb what's inside you. And the breath is your constant reminder. There will be days when it feels impossible to stay calm. There will be words that cut deep, situations that feel unfair, and moments where the pressure makes your heart race. In those moments, forget everything else. Just breathe one breath, then another, until the fire burns down, until your mind clears, until the real you, the higher you, returns to the center. Breathing is not running away, it is stepping in. It is returning to the place where your power lives. You are not here to be a slave to your emotions. You are not here to be controlled by noise. You are here to rise, to master, to lead. And all of that begins not with a reaction, not with resistance, but with a breath. Reaction is the enemy of clarity. It is the thief of reason, the destroyer of peace, and the weapon the world uses to pull you off your path. Every time you react without thinking, you surrender control. You let the outside world dictate your inner state. And once you hand over that control, you lose more than just a moment. You lose power, presence, and purpose. Most people believe their reaction is proof of strength. They confuse loudness with power, defensiveness with confidence, and anger with authority. But in truth, nothing reveals inner weakness faster than a person who can be easily triggered. Reaction is a slave's response. It's automatic, unconscious, and dictated by emotion rather than awareness. A person who constantly reacts is not in control of themselves. They are in the hands of whoever or whatever knows how to push their buttons. You must understand, every time you react impulsively, you create fog in the mind. You lose the clarity to see the truth, the patience to weigh the consequences, and the discipline to choose the higher road. Clarity can only survive in stillness. It cannot coexist with chaos, and reaction is chaos, wrapped in urgency, driven by ego, and fueled by fear. To live with clarity, you must first master your awareness. That means recognizing the difference between what is happening around you and what is happening within you. Someone insults you. That's their energy, not yours. Someone disagrees with you. That's their perspective, not your identity. Life throws obstacles in your path. That's reality, not personal sabotage. The moment you personalize everything, you react. And when you react, you give away your peace. What most fail to see is that reaction always comes from the lower self, the part of you built on pride, insecurity, and emotional memory. That part wants to be right, wants to be loud, wants to win. But clarity lives in the higher self, the part that chooses presence over provocation, calm over chaos, wisdom over winning. The higher self doesn't react because it's not threatened. It doesn't need to be seen because it knows what it is. It doesn't need to argue because truth doesn't shake under pressure. When someone says something offensive, ask yourself, what do I need to say here? What happens if I say nothing? You'll often find that silence holds more power than any comeback. When life throws frustration your way, stop and ask, is this worth my energy? Or is my reaction about protecting my ego? That moment of reflection is where transformation begins. It's where you stop being a puppet of emotion and start becoming a master of awareness. People who operate from reaction are easy to manipulate. They're predictable. press the right button, and they explode. Trigger the right emotion, and they fall apart. But those who live with clarity are untouchable. You can't provoke someone who sees through the game. You can't rattle someone whose identity is not built on approval or opposition. You can't control someone who has already chosen inner freedom. This does not mean you never respond. Response is not reaction. Response is conscious. It's deliberate. It's born from stillness, not impulse. It's rooted in values, not emotion. And sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. To ignore the bait is not weakness, it's strength. To walk away without needing the last word is not defeat, it's victory of the mind over the ego. Clarity gives you space. Reaction traps you in urgency. When you're clear, you can see the intent behind the words, the pattern behind the behavior, the trap behind the provocation. But when you react, you fall into the very game you were meant to rise above. Clarity elevates, reaction entangles. Train yourself to pause. In every situation that threatens your peace, build the habit of a pause, a breath, a moment of awareness. That space is sacred. It's where wisdom whispers and emotion fades. It's where you can ask, what's the wise thing to do here? And you'll notice, more often than not, the wise choice is the calm one, the steady one, the one that does not cost you your peace. It takes discipline to live with clarity. It takes humility to admit that not everything deserves your reaction, and it takes inner strength to stay still while the world screams for your attention. But when you practice this long enough, you begin to notice something. You no longer get pulled into every argument. You no longer feel the urge to fight every battle. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. That's when you know you've won, not by overpowering others, but by overpowering the impulse to always react, not by controlling the outside world, but by mastering the inside one. That's real clarity. That's real freedom. You were not born to be easily shaken. You were not built to live in reaction. You are here to move with purpose, to speak with intention, to lead with presence. Reaction is noise. Clarity is power. Choose power. Every time, silence is not the absence of power. It is its purest form. In a world addicted to noise, where everyone rushes to be heard, silence becomes a rebellion. It becomes a weapon of mastery. When you choose silence, you are not retreating. You are rising above. You are choosing clarity over chaos, dignity over drama, and strength over struggle. Let others scream to prove themselves. You don't need to, because real power never needs to announce itself. When someone tries to provoke you, they expect sound. They want a response. They want validation. They want you to meet their anger with anger, their insecurity with yours. That is the trap, and silence is how you avoid it. A man or woman who responds to every insult, every opinion, every challenge with words is easy to read, easy to manipulate, and easier to defeat. But someone who holds their ground with unshaken stillness, who lets silence carry the message, is someone who cannot be touched. People misunderstand silence. They think it's weakness, avoidance, fear. But silence, when chosen consciously, is the highest expression of self-control. It is the space between impulse and wisdom, the pause where true understanding lives. When you are silent, you are listening, not just to others, but to yourself. You hear the emotion before it becomes a reaction. You see the situation without the fog of ego. You gain a perspective that noise always drowns. Words are powerful, yes, but they can also be reckless. They can escalate. They can wound. They can trap you into energy you never meant to absorb. And once spoken, they cannot be taken back. Silence protects your energy. It guards your integrity. It lets you observe without being pulled. In silence, you do not defend your ego. You protect your peace. There is a kind of silence that is passive and weak. The silence of fear, avoidance, suppression, that is not the silence we speak of. The silence of power is different. It is not afraid to speak. It simply knows when to speak, and more importantly, when not to. This silence is a choice. It is strength under control. It is a sword in its sheath. Just because you can attack doesn't mean you should. True warriors only strike when it serves a higher purpose. Every battle does not deserve your involvement. Every insult does not deserve your voice. Every challenge is not yours to fight. When you realize this, you begin to move differently. You stop needing to respond. You stop needing to prove. You become selective, not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. You understand that your energy is sacred and silence is how you preserve it. Think of a mountain. It does not shout. It does not chase. It does not explain itself. And yet its presence commands respect. Its stillness speaks louder than any storm. That is the energy of a person who has mastered silence. They do not need to dominate. Their presence is the proof, and when they speak, people listen because their words are not noise but precision. Not reaction but truth. To reach this level, you must train yourself to resist the urge to speak for approval, to argue for dominance, or to defend your pride. Practice letting moments pass without the need to interrupt them. Let others talk over you. Let others underestimate you. Let others throw their words at you like stones. You do not need to catch them. You do not need to throw them back. Stand in silence and let the dust settle on its own. The loudest one in the room is rarely the strongest. Noise often comes from insecurity, from the need to be validated, from the fear of being ignored. But silence is for those who no longer need the world to understand them. They've already understood themselves, and in that self-understanding they find peace, a peace that noise cannot touch. There will be moments when your silence will feel like a battle, when your ego will scream for revenge, for rebuttal, for attention. Let it scream, watch it, but do not obey it, because beyond that scream is stillness, and in that stillness is power. When you master silence, you don't just gain control of your words, you gain control of your world. People may mock your silence. They may accuse you of not caring, of being cold, of lacking courage. Let them. Your silence is not for them. It's for you. It's your boundary, your sanctuary, your strength. Those who truly see you will understand. And those who don't were never meant to. You are not here to argue your worth. You are not here to defend your soul every time it's questioned. You are here to embody what cannot be argued. Calm presence, grounded energy, unshakable discipline. And that is built in silence, maintained in silence, protected by silence. Speak only when your words can improve the silence. Speak only when your message can heal, uplift, or clarify. Until then, stay rooted. Stay still. Let others chase the noise. Let others burn out proving themselves. You remain. Because silence is not empty. It's full of answers. It's full of strength. It is the language of those who have nothing to prove, only everything to protect.